Howdy, y'all. Today we are going to be rounding some numbers just like I round up my cattle, right? Maybe that worked. All right, guys, today we are rounding numbers, something so fun. And our I can statement today is I can round a whole number. So today we are going to be rounding numbers. So what is rounding? Rounding is saying if you had 8 friends come to your party, you'd say there was about 10 people there. So rounding is like an estimate. You're trying to say something close to that number, okay? Rather than being, if you wanted to round something to 100, rather than being, I had 97 friends show up, you could say I had 100 people there, about 100 people, right? So estimating is great. So before we estimate, I'm going to tell you this story of my little friend over here. We're going to name him Johnny. Johnny was trying to complete this big, long swim race, okay? But Johnny did something super silly. Johnny was a little bit worried that he wasn't going to make it to the end, and he had never swam this far before. So Johnny started, and he swam, and he swam, and he swam. And he got halfway through his race, and then he got so nervous that he turned around and came back. So I want you to pause this video and think, why would that be so silly of Johnny to go all the way to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then halfway, and then turn around and come back? Okay, if you thought about it, it's silly because he went 5 this way and then 5 back. But if he would have gone 5 this way and then the same 5 he went back, he could have gone 5 all the way to the finish. So he actually swam the whole thing because he went 5 there and then he could have done 5 more that way, but he went 5 more back. So this, I tell you the story because this is important for rounding. Okay? The numbers 1 through 4, when we're rounding, if you have a number 1 through 4, you stay the same. Your number doesn't change. But anytime you have 5 or greater, you round up. So 5 and up go up, 4 and down stays the same. Okay, that'll make more sense as I talk about it. But just remember our swimmer, Johnny, he went halfway and turned around. That's silly. If you ever get to 5, you need to go forward. All right. Let us look at our first problem today. I think we did the I can statement. If we didn't, I can round a whole number. I'm pretty sure we did. We did. All right, here is our first problem today. Mount Rushmore welcomed more than 138,202 visitors. All right, you know me. Automatically, I'm going to circle my number because it's important. Okay? A journalist reported about 100,000 people, going to circle a number, were there. Was that an accurate estimate? So we want to know if this was an accurate estimate, 100,000. So let's start here. So Mount Rushmore, let's take our number 138,202, our original amount of visitors, and we want to know if the estimate of 100,000, so let's write that in numbers, 100,000. We want to know, is this an accurate estimate? Okay, so we could do that by rounding, okay? Remember, 5 and up, you go up. Anything 4 and lower, the number stays the same. So if we wanted to know if this was a close estimate, we could take our numbers and round them. So we could take our number in our greatest spot, our 1, which is in our 100,000 space, and we could round it, okay? So whenever we're rounding, we underline the number we're rounding, and then we look to the right. So we see a 3. Does a 3 tell us to round up or stay the same? 3 actually tells us to stay the same, because remember, 3 is below 4 and below, we go down. So 3 tells the 1 to stay the same. Okay? Then everything else changes to zeros, just like the value. So 2 changed to 0, 0 stayed to 0. They all changed to 0, okay? The 3 told us to stay the same. We brought it down as a 1, and everything else changed to zeros. So was 100,000 an accurate guess? It was, because if we rounded the 100,000's place, we would see that 3 told it to stay the same, everything else changed to 0, and it would be 100,000. All right, that confused you. Don't let it. We are going to keep going. All right, example number 1. Let's try this one. So if we had the number 5,725, okay? And we wanted to know what this would be rounded to the nearest thousandths. So we are rounding to the nearest thousandths place, okay? So here's the thing, we have to first know which number's in the thousandths place. So if we look here, we know that the 5 is in the thousandths place. So that's the number being rounded, so we underline it. So remember, we look to the number to the right of it, and that is a 7, okay? Let's think the 7, would a 7 tell 5 to go up to the next number, round up, or stay the same? Well, a 7, because it's bigger than 5, tells it to round up. So the 7 tells the 5, hey, I'm going to have you move to a 6, one number up, and then everything else, remember, changes to a 0. So our 5,725 actually rounds to 600,000 when we're rounding to the thousandths place. So what if we took that same number and rounded it to a different place? What if we wanted to round it to the nearest tenths place, okay? So if we're going to round it to the nearest tenths, let's rewrite our number, 5,725. So if we're rounding the tens, we have to figure out which number is in the tenths place. Well, we see that the 2 is in the 10th place, so I underline it. Then I check out its neighbor to the right. It is a 5. So remember, Johnny swam 5, and then he turned around, and that was a bad mistake. So 5 and up tells us to go up. So the 5 is going to tell the 2, I want you to go up and change into a 3. The 5 is going to change into a 0. So here's something new. Everything to the left of it still stays that number. The only things that change to zeros are the numbers after it, okay? So the nearest tens place would be 5,730. Cool, right? Let's do one more, and then we are going to work on our first pause problem. All right. Let me flip this over. If we had the number, so this is example 2, 64,999. And I wanted us to round the 10,000ths place. All right, so let's round it to the 10,000ths place. So we have our number underlined. We look to the number to the right. What does our neighbor tell us to do? Does 4 tell us to go up or stay the same? It tells us to stay the same because it's too little. So the 6 stays the same. Everything to the right of it changes to a 0. So 64,999 rounded to the nearest 10,000ths place is 60,000. Okay, let's try one more thing with this number. If we were rounding this number to the nearest, let's say, ooh, this is a good tricky one. If we were rounding it to the nearest tens, stay with me, okay? So this, we look to the right of it, and the 9, what does it tell it to go up or stay the same? It tells it to go up. So the 9 actually tells this 9 to change to a 10. So we can't put a 10 here. That would make sense, right? So we put a 0, and then we give 1 to this 9. But then this 9 would change into a 10. So give it a 0, and then give it to this 4. And this 4 would change into a 5. Okay? Crazy. So this 9 changes to a 0 because it's after the number we're rounding, and the 6 stays the same. So if we were rounding to the nearest tens, it actually changed to 65,000 because there's so many 9s in this one. All right, here is your first pause problem. Let's give it a try. If you had the number 301,587, and I wanted you to round to the nearest thousandths place. pause this video and see if you can do it. But I'm going to keep going. All right. We underline the 1, then we look to the right. The 5. Does the 5 tell us to go up or stay the same? The 5 tells us to go up. So the 1 changes to a 2. Everything below it changes to a 0. And everything to the other side stays the same. So if you got 302,000, you are correct. All right. Let's try one more pause problem. Here's our last problem of the day. If you had the number 10,832, and I wanted you to round the thousands place again, go ahead and round it, see how you do. But I'm going to keep going. Okay, so we look to the right of our number. It's an 8. Does the 8 tell us to go up or stay the same? The 8 tells us to go up. So the 0 changes to a 1. The 1 to the left of it stays the same. Everything else changes to a 0. So if we rounded it, it would be 11,000. Y'all, rounding is a good time. All right. Now we're to the portion of asking a question. Do not forget to ask a question. It could be about anything you've seen here today that you do not understand. And remember, tomorrow we will go all over it if you have any questions at all. All right, see you guys tomorrow.